Okay. My research project is called Shelf Project. That is also the name of the app that I made. And it is by me, Emmanuel Huitron, for my research class. Here's my table of contents. Okay, so abstract. Flutter is a UI SDK created by Google for the purpose of developing apps for Android, iOS, PC, and more. You can do it all in one project rather than one project per platform. Traditionally, an app would be coded for iOS with Xcode and then again for Android with Android Studio. Since Flutter code only needs to be written once for all compatible platforms, Flutter can greatly decrease the amount of time needed to code apps for both iOS and Android. The app that I created is intended to be similar to Goodreads. It looks up books and their information using the Google Books API. So here's the introduction. I decided to do this specific project in order to see how fast and effective Flutter is versus developing an app natively for iOS or Android. This can be important information for small businesses or freelancers who have limited time and resources. This can also be useful for hobbyists or students who are deciding what to learn next or how they want to develop their next project. Design and implementation. I used Dart and Flutter to program the app, and I used their website for the accompanying documentation to learn how to set up and use the programming languages. I used the Google Books API, specifically the JSONs from HTTP GET requests, to get information for books. I used my Mac Mini to program the project because macOS is required to sign iOS apps. You can still develop the iOS app on a Windows computer, but to do the actual signing and exporting, you will need a Mac computer. I used YouTube extensively to find YouTube video tutorials and playlists. I also found a lot of example projects on sites such as GitHub, where I could learn from some of the code and different implementations of the Google Books API and Flutter. So here's a short video demo of my app. It starts out with iOS using an emulator of an iPhone that Apple calls a simulator. I did speed up this portion of the video as it took quite some time to actually launch the app. So it starts out with the home page, which is currently empty, but in the future could have things like the options to save books. And I'm going to start out with a couple quick searches of books. The results show 10 results per page. And here you could click on the books or tap on them on a phone to see more information about the book, including the author. The X in the top right will clear the search term so you can type something new. Here's another example book, and notice this one has 2 authors, and it will show all of them beneath the title. And here's just one more for good measure. Right, and after doing it on iOS, I put the app on my personal phone, which is running Android. It's fairly simple. Just connect your phone to your computer and put the phone in debug mode, and then run the code as normal on the code editor. It also works for when you search for author, and as well as ISBN number, and anything else that the Google Books API will take, you can use to search on this app. So you can see the ISBN number was actually for the second book on this result. Alright. So challenges. It was challenging to learn Dart from scratch. I'd not used it before starting this project. Also, once I did learn it, I had to decide how I was going to organize the different widgets, which is what different objects or classes are known as in Dart. And I wanted to find the best way to set up the different screens that appear, such as the home screen and the search screen and the book information screen. Also, another very challenging part, and probably the part that gave me the most headache, was decoding the JSON. As you can see on the picture on the right, this is just an example of what the Google Books API gives the app after a GET request when the search term is just Harry Potter. And the difficult part is how nested the JSON is. When they're all just listed items one after the other, it's fairly easy to use, but when they're nested in such a way, I had a hard time getting each individual list out of the JSON and into arrays so that my app could use. So pros and cons. The pros are Flutter gave me a very clean material design. Their library is very good, and there's a lot of things to find on their website that you can use in the app, and a lot of things are already natively in the Flutter SDK, so there's no need to import or download anything else after you have the Flutter SDK. Their hot reload and hot restart made testing very fast, and as soon as I changed something in the code or added a feature, I could just do a hot reload and the changes would immediately appear on the physical device or on the emulator, so that I wouldn't have to close the application and launch it again, which would take a lot of time. So of course it works on both iOS and Android, as you could see from the demo, and the app was very responsive. It wasn't slow at all. So cons, I still wasn't able to implement a feature that I wanted to include, which was saving books in like a list of your books on the device. I ended up taking a lot more time than I thought I would on just learning the Dart programming language and decoding the JSON. And there's still no Google account integration, so that would have made it possible to import a list of books that you already have with your Gmail account. So future enhancements, like I said in the last slide, the ability to save books would be something to add in the future. Also, book process or book progress would be a nice to have feature, so you would know about how far along in a book you are in case a bookmark gets lost, or if you're reading it digitally. Also, the ability to add things like book club or assignment questions, anything from discussion questions about themes that would be useful for things like schools or classrooms. and social features. So if you're gonna have book clubs or classrooms using this app, it would be nice to have abilities to create the groups within the apps. And conclusion. So I learned that Flutter is a great way to quickly develop apps for iOS and Android simultaneously. Its built-in material design UI looks great, and Dart's C-style syntax makes learning easier. But one still must consider that Flutter may not support features exclusive to one platform. So if say iOS has a new feature that Android doesn't have, you may not be able to use it with Flutter since it needs to export the app to both iOS and Android. And if you had a feature that isn't going to work on one of those, then it may not work when you're trying to code it in Flutter. Also, it has smaller community support than things like native iOS or native Android. And this can impact you while you're trying to find help online or tutorials. Also, when looking for employment and things of that nature. And that will be it. Thanks for taking a look.